What's up, witches? You're listening to The Bewitching Hour. I'm your host, Kat, and I'll be dropping exciting episodes covering everything from the history of witchcraft, aliens, the paranormal, ghost stories, and I'm excited to have guests on who have a story to tell, as well as share my experiences and perspective on living life as a modern-day witch. Grab your brooms, because it's about to get real. We are back for part 2 of my chat with Mr. He, and we get in deep this episode. Mr. He is going to be answering all of your listener questions, and we really get into what it means to be witchy. I also received the best pep talk of my life, so excuse my silent sob toward the end of this episode, but damn, I feel like if you're ever having a bad day, all you have to do is skip to the end of this and listen to Mr. He's supportive words. Like, I cried, for real. One thing before we get started, I am very happy to report, as most of you know, that Derek Chauvin was found guilty for the death of George Floyd. I fully understand that everyone has the right to a trial and yada, 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 but why the hell did this take so long? Like, we were all watching this same horrifying video, right? Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too off topic and make this like a about me soapbox situation, but at the same time, this just feels like such a small victory. George Floyd should still be here. This is accountability, not necessarily justice, and I just continue to think of his family, and I hope that they're finding peace, really. Our work is not done, so please don't let this make you forget just because one bad cop was held accountable. Whew. Okay, let's do something together. Let's do some breathing. Wherever you are listening to this, just take a second and breathe. In for 3. Hold for 3. Out for 3. Repeat as many times as you need to. You can totally pause this. I'll give you a moment. Do we feel better? Yeah? Okay, let's jump into some questions with Mr. He. So I do have a couple questions. I asked some people, obviously I do this for every episode, to kind of like write in and let me know what they want to ask you. So one of the questions was, what's your favorite monster, like from the horror movies, and why? And also, what is your favorite horror movie?
What's my favorite monster? Like grand scale, or are we talking like Universal, or like,
Let's say grand scale, just out of all of them.
I like monsters that can talk. So a Freddy Krueger is really appealing to me because I love the punchline. I think that's like the drag performer in me, the host in me. I love the wit, and Freddy Krueger's witty. In new Chucky's and new Child's Plays, like being able to give the doll a voice and have a punchline is like really appealing to me versus a Michael Myers, which is like a silent killer. So as a Jason, to me, those are sort of like, you could swap that out. It's literally just a man in a mask. There's no like character performance to it. That's a little unfair. I do think they are better Jasons and better Michaels, so I probably shouldn't say that. But with that being said, I have a very special place in my heart for Freddy Krueger. But I do think my favorite monster is probably, which I can't even say this because he doesn't speak, the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh my God, that's mine.
I eat him up.
How do you feel about witches? That was another question I got.
How do I feel about witches?
Yes.
I feel like I should be a little careful about this because clearly after listening to every single episode of The Bewitching Hour, I know your thoughts and opinions on witches.
Yes.
But I don't think about it much. And I think maybe that's because I think of like lack of credibility, but it's not appealing to me, which is interesting because I love female energy. I love like the charged female, and nothing says charged female more than witch. But that never has been something that I put any time or weight into overall.
I guess like for me, I just expect everyone to be like as interested in it as I am, which I know is not the case, but I'm always there to provide that education, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's literally just like, and maybe this is in poor taste, just like lack of interest.
And also lack of representation because you look at like what's out there in regard to witches and it's all like kitschy and like making fun of like I mean, I love me some Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but that is not accurate representation.
Oh,
Like,
see, I loved that. I watched
oh,
Sabrina
so
the Teenage
yeah,
Witch. Like, I was all for the Netflix stuff. I loved when it got dark, and I love that. But to me, like, that is a TV show. I
yeah.
think that I've never experienced anything witchy in real life, and therefore it's fake. And I'm not saying it's fake because I do think that there are some really real and tangible examples to it. So I don't want to say like I don't believe in witches. I just want to say like I don't know if I have ever really, this sounds bad. I don't know if I've ever really cared enough.
No, it doesn't
Like
sound bad.
listening
Like I
to your
said,
podcast, I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God. No, tea, work. And when you're talking about your green book and the things you make and little things for, you know, put this in a jar and then bury it in the ground and blah, 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 blah. Like, to me, that just sounds like a juice bar. And then you
oh,
interrupt,
totally.
like, you know, so I'm like, well, what's like witchy about that? And I think for me, the like witch aspect is simply the preparation of it. Like the intentions of it is what qualifies it as like witch practice.
And I
Like
was just gonna say, like, it is a very intentional thing. And it's, I mean, it's not all just like, making potions and like
no, I
burying shit.
realize
Like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just, it is a very intentional practice. And like, like I said, I can't expect everyone to be as interested as I am, but that's why I have this podcast is to provide that representation and to provide a platform and like essentially a safe space because we don't have great representation. So I
Mhm.
feel like to be able to be the voice for so many and like maybe I'm not even like the voice, just a voice. It's nice. It's like it is a safe space.
Yeah, and I think that's why I love the Love Witch is because I love routine. I love order. I love ritual.
Mhm.
I think that's, appealing to me in religion and it's appealing to me in practice. And the idea of a love spell and preparing something and setting intentions and everything behind that is like really exciting and fascinating to me. Like I love a slow burn. Like I ate Midsummer up because I could sat and watch them cut a slice of bread for 3 hours. I was like, you better work. You better prepare that feast. Because I like watching people who are passionate practice, who are like, have prepared for this routine, prepare.
It's also very triggering, spoiler alert, but
No, what were you saying when the old people jumped?
yeah, when they just like threw themselves off this cliff, I was like, that is very triggering. And like maybe that's not something that I necessarily believe in. Like I don't do the sacrificial.
Oh, see, I loved that.
Mm-mm. Ooh,
I
it,
love
it
that
traumatized
because
me.
I love the idea of like undoubted belief.
It was just hard to watch, you
Oh,
know?
I think it should be. I don't think that that should
Hmm.
have been an easy visual to. I think if you could take that in easily, then that says more about you than the film. It should have made you want to turn your head away.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's why I liked it. I thought,
Hmm.
here is a group of people where everyone is saying, like, you did this. And I think there's something to say about that because I think that that is in every religion. I think that that's in every belief system. And in today's cause, maybe it's not people jumping off cliffs, but it's people undeniably defending things that could be super harmful to other people, especially in like a political sphere, whether it's abortion or gay marriage or like whatever, like people will go their step into harm's way to defend a belief that they think is protecting the whole. And that is what really made me go like, okay, everyone here takes this really seriously,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think the reason, bringing it back to like witches and like witchcraft or whatever, to me, I was always like, what's witchy about this? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, you're literally just setting an intention. Like, that's normal. So, unless it was literally like superpowers, Matilda, like spells, and like Harry Potter, Wizard and Witches, I was sort of like, this is just like normal. Like people should be just doing this in their life, like setting intentions and like manifesting and like connecting with the earth and earthing and like walking barefoot and grounding themselves. And to me, that seems normal. So to be like, well, that's witch. I'm like, what?
I get where you're coming from.
You
I do.
know, I think
Mhm.
because then when it comes into like seeing the dead or conjuring or manifesting or cleansing, like that doesn't even feel witchy to me. That feels more like medium. Like, I guess I never associated witches with like mediumship. I always,
Well, yeah, that's not always the case either. Like, not everyone that says that they're a witch, is a medium, vice versa.
I guess I'm just like, so
Yeah,
what's a modern day witch?
me.
But what does that mean?
So I'm just a normal person. I have a full-time job. I have a kid. Like, I live a pretty normal life to society standards, but like the things that I believe in, the intentions that I set for myself, for my life, or my child, I'm not raising him to be the way that I was as a kid.
I don't know if this is coming off as offensive. I'm just
No,
really
no.
curious in terms of like what makes this witch.
For me, and it's different for everybody, I call myself a green witch. So I work a lot with plants, I work a lot with nature, like oils and like natural things, crystals, things like that. And then, of course, with the moon. So there are certain, like I even have, it's a book over there. It's like basically like a farmer's almanac, but it's a witch's almanac, like a spell a day.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll do those, and it's just like a lot of like heavy meditation. It is a lot of manifesting, which I'm actually really good at. But it's just like little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. And the word witch for me, like you said, a charged woman, for me, it's like a woman who's not going to let society put these labels on her. She is going to practice what she believes. I don't have to be Christian. I don't have to be religious. Like I can do what I want to do, and that's my power. That's what makes me a witch.
Like out of everything you
So,
just said, because you could say like, because I don't conform to labels. Okay, well, neither does the individual who labels himself as non-binary. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I'm like, so then what is the label? Or I'm like,
So the label, I guess, essentially is witch. I mean, that would be the label.
but I think when we think of like if the label of witch is like those burned out of, on the stake of like hysteria. And that's like, and I understand like the feminist aspect of it of like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm a witch. But still you could subvert that word with like, oh, I'm a bitch, like I'm a bad bitch. So I'm wondering what is the difference between like a bad bitch and a witch?
No, what isn't the difference? It's just
Well,
what I
that's
choose.
that's what I'm curious as to like
Mhm.
what makes a modern day witch. Because I feel like a lot of things sound so ingrained into sort of like millennial culture, especially Gen Z culture, like meditation, preparation. People live for the like disbelief of the church and religion and like growing up into a non-secular environment where people love crystals. Crystals are so popular now. People on TikTok charge your crystals,
I
worship.
know.
So this is what I'm
And
saying. So like it's crystals.
no.
Is that what separates like a practicing witch versus someone is like that's someone who sets their intentions with their crystals? Because people who go do yoga and every morning, like they're meditating, but would you
Mhm.
call them a witch?
Only if they
This
wanted
is
to
why
call
I'm
themselves
curious.
that.
I'm
No,
like
no,
so
no.
excited
I
I
love
have the
this.
opportunity to talk to you because I'm like, so what makes the modern day witch because it's sort of when I think about how the idea of like the queer individual is dying because in a few years obviously there'll be history and oppression and blah 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 blah, but if the majority of individuals are identifying themselves as queer, then you would hope for a world in where the binary has broken, sexuality is fluid, and people live, which means the idea of labeling yourself as gay will be dated.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of importance in labeling yourself gay because of the history that's like connotated, like associated with that word, and it like charges the word. So I'm wondering like what the term witch is like loaded and associated with that go makes you want to go like, no, this is why I'm different.
That's okay. So I can only speak for myself. I can't. But for me, it is being different. It is struggling so hard, like bouncing back and forth, like going from place to place, going from experience to experience, like being a part of the church, then not being a part of the church, and then trying to find my way through life. But at the same time, like I've been this way since I was a kid. I've always been
But
interested
what is
in
this
this
way?
stuff,
Is this way?
into the not so normal things that people, everyday people, don't necessarily deal with, like the fact that I do see ghosts, the fact that I am really good at manifesting, the fact that I didn't want to be called a Christian anymore. I didn't want to be called a non-believer. I obviously believe in something. Just because it doesn't align with like the Christian church anymore doesn't mean I'm not a believer. For me, which
So for you,
made
is
it,
it an act of rebellion?
no, no, because I've always been like this. I
Okay.
honestly, me trying to get into the Christian church was an act of rebellion.
Is the term witch the act of rebellion?
I don't think so. I think for me, it's just
Really?
what I feel comfortable, like you are called Mr. He. I wouldn't say for you that's an act of rebellion. That is a part of who you are. For me, calling myself a witch, that's just part of who I am.
Yeah, but Mr. He's something that I can wipe off.
I mean, I can wipe it off too. I can literally tell nobody about this and keep it to myself.
Like Mr. He is an extension of myself, but
Hmm.
it's
Okay, I see what you mean.
performance. And
Sure.
that would mean that you are performing as a witch.
No, I'm not performing.
Yeah, so you see what I mean? So that's why I mean like I'm just trying to understand like if someone were to be like, Parker, what does being queer mean to you? I could be like, listen to my music. So if someone is like, Kat, what is being, because I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this, like, what does being a witch mean to you? And maybe that was the better way to sort of ask everything I've been saying, and maybe it's coming off as too harsh, but
No, no,
that's
no,
what I
not
want
at all.
to know. Like, what does being a witch mean to you where you could never replace the word witch with something else?
This is like a, I don't even know, like five-part question. So for me, it is realizing that I am a powerful individual, that I am able to own that power
Okay.
because of the experiences and the things that I have been through, seen, and not letting certain things take hold of me to the point where I no longer know who I am.
Okay.
Being a witch for me is always knowing who I am. And I know that that's like a little abstract. For me, it makes
I mean,
sense.
that's fine. People go, I'm gay, and we have to go, okay.
To me, like that's never like phased me. Like if anybody walked up to me and was like, "I'm purple," I'd be like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." Like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't phase me in that way. It has everything to do with being different, not letting the world get a hold of me to the point where I no longer know who I am. And if there's these small practices that I can do along the way to remind myself, the healing part of it, the crystals, the working with the moon phases, this, that, like then I'm able to recenter and be like, okay, this is my purpose.
So, like, the moon and the crystals is sort of really what sort of sets you apart as like other in terms of like
Mm,
everyday practice that most people don't do.
yes and no. I mean, there obviously, like you said, there's a lot of people that do practice that and don't label themselves as a witch. Or a lot of it also is like the research that I've done. Every time I go to Salem, I feel like I'm home. I feel like maybe in a past life, like that's where I came from. Yeah, because like I'll watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I mean, even Hocus Pocus, that's like my favorite movie of all time. But even I'm like, this is kind of making a joke out of it, you know? Like being able to just know things, like having, I don't even want to call them like powers because that sounds so fucking cheesy. Like I'm not a goddamn Pokemon.
But that's fine. Call it a power. Call it a strength.
I mean, just the things that I know that I shouldn't be able to know, but I do know. For like my medium stuff, I'm really, really good at knowing people's names without meeting them. 5 out of 5, I'm not wrong.
Okay.
And people are like, there's no way you would have known that. So that for me is a power.
So maybe that's it. Like the mediumship of it. The sort
Mhm.
of like connection to afterlife is what sort of the quote unquote witchy.
I mean, even just going to like the Salem witch trial, like memorial where they had the graves and everything, like I felt such a connection and got so emotional when I was there because I was like, you know, these people were just different. And even if they weren't different, even if it was all a scam, like they were put to death for something that someone else believed that didn't necessarily have anything to do with them. I don't ever want that for myself. I don't ever want people to tell me what I should believe, how I should feel. So again, I just keep going back to it. It's owning that power.
No, I mean, I don't think that you should like beat yourself up, or feel the need to apologize or to like to discredit what you're saying. Like say what you're saying and mean it and people will believe it, you
And
know?
that's like a hard thing for me too. Like I call it coming out of the broom closet because it's just
I've heard.
like you, I have to make a joke out of things for me to be able to process it.
But this is sort of where I was like, huh, interesting.
Mhm.
Because I can come out of the closet and and almost get expelled and my entire life get derailed and people get like kicked out of their houses. If people say I'm a witch, do you think it's the same level of
No, and
experience or
that's something that I
consequence?
want to make very, very
I'm not
clear.
saying that that's like what you're trying to say when you say coming out of the broom closet. Like I don't think
Right.
you're making a joke or a parody of it. What
No.
I what I'm challenging is the like I think I'm trying to figure out why you beat yourself up so much about it. So much of what you said is society's sort of regular expectations of the like yoga hippie sort of in tune with horoscopes and crystals.
Definitely,
Yeah,
it's absolutely not a joke. Like I want to make that so clear. Like it is so important for me for everyone to be able to speak their truth and have their own voice and not be judged or, put down for it.
yeah.
And I
And I
mean,
don't think you're doing that, and I hope it's not coming across as me trying to do that
no,
to you.
I would
I
never
just
want someone else to think that.
can only do what you've set your intention for. I know that you're working towards manifesting and healing and coming to terms with who you are and strengthening the gifts that you have and being able to heal and find closure and help those around you who are struggling or maybe need guidance. I guess it's so funny to me that that's defined as a witch.
It's not that that's like what is defined as a witch, it's just the practices that I partake in, I guess. It's like even women's periods, they can be so aligned with the moon cycle. Like you can't tell me that's coincidence.
No, 100%. I definitely believe in like powers and forces in nature.
Mhm.
100%.
I mean, the moon affects the tides of the ocean. I feel a certain type of way every time a new moon comes around, every time a full moon comes around. It's just
I like
what I'm
that.
in.
If you are like the modern day witch is those in tune with the moon. I'd buy that. I'd sell that. I think that's super intriguing
It
and
affects my
like
moods. Like I will go
relatable.
weeks without crying, but then we'll get like, the beaver moon or whatever, or super moon, and then I'm like emotional for 2 weeks thereafter. I
Mhm.
mean, that is something that, and like, yeah, I am one of those crazy people that sets my crystals out in the full moon to charge or what. That's what works for me. That doesn't work for everybody, and that's 100% okay. These are my beliefs and the things that I practice, and there's nothing wrong with that. Did that answer your question?
It was so fun for me to listen to all your episodes and go like, "Oh, this is the modern day witch." You know what I mean? Like this is what that is. Cuz it's just something I haven't really thought about. And then I thought, "Oh, well, that's sort of funny because what she's saying she's doing is like what my other friend does." I would have never thought that that was like witchy, you know?
Mhm.
Maybe I'm just in an environment where so many people around me are sort of like so in tuned with themselves in like intentions and meditation and like manifestation and crystals and like, moving through the earth as one, that it just seems so human nature.
It's
So to
very
me,
trendy right now. Like these have been practices that have been going on for like I don't even know, since the world started. But now it's just such a trend because there are things like TikTok and like people think it's what makes them cool or whatever. But like
but this is what
there
I
are
said. You said, like, I'm one of those crazy people who charges their crystals. So do you think you're crazy?
sometimes, hell yeah.
Uh, when you mean crazy,
Like just
people,
out there, like very like
yeah,
for the younger
yeah.
people, like I said, I'm 30. For the younger people, it is what's trendy right now. And so like for me, it is a little frustrating seeing like all these TikTokers or whatever make like videos on crystals because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm glad you're putting the education out there, but at the same time, like this isn't a joke. This isn't a trend. Like there's people that actually believe this.
I feel like that's a really negative aspect to it rather than
Yeah.
being, there are people who are learning about them, and that means more people will come in contact with them. And this is when people are learning that crystals do have a power, because look at all the repercussions of everyone getting that like meldonite or whatever that no one believed in, and then everyone's
Hmm.
black crystals, their lives come falling apart. And then suddenly you have more people who go like, wait a minute, why is this like rock having a charge on my life? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like, more people coming to terms with their sexuality dismantles the gender norm. So,
Hmm.
more people coming in tune with manifestation and crystals, wouldn't that sort of like destroy the witch?
It all depends on the intention. And like, I don't know if your friends do spells, but I do spells. I would say that's pretty witchy. Like,
You see, ooh, now I'm excited. Like,
okay.
this is really intriguing to me because, like, what does that mean? Because I've seen people be like, this is a love spell and this is that, but you must get consent if you're going to do this. So now there's an element of like consensual spells and like involving other people psychologically. Where do you land on that scale? What are you casting spells on? Do they involve other people, and do they know?
I don't fuck with other people. I will say that unless it is for anytime I have a friend that's going through a hard time, anytime I have a friend that has lost somebody, I will light a white candle for them. As the smoke goes up, it essentially like brings peace to them, even if they're not in the same room. It's the intention behind it.
Okay.
Green candles. When I was searching for a job, I lit green candles out the ass
Okay.
because green is
See, this
the
kind of
color of
stuff, this
abundance.
sounds witchy. This
Okay.
sounds witchy to me.
And see, like this is stuff that I just like don't tell people because
This, I feel like this is the stuff that we want to know. Maybe that conversation was like the navigation to get here, because
mhm,
like you being like, because I know that like when I'm really proud and I'm standing up for something and like I want people to take me seriously, I had to learn the sort of like vocabulary that people are looking for or find familiar, and like bring new meaning to certain words. And so words like meditation and intention to me are like, that's yoga class talk. You know what I
sure.
mean? It's like,
Hmm.
you know, Muffy and I both work at a boutique cycling studio where they place crystals and light sage and set intentions and oils and flowers. But I would have never considered that witchy or witchcraft. That was just to like communally clean and do a performance of ritual to like add intention. And so I think you saying stuff like candles and colors and association and smoke, like
Hmm.
that is witchy, because that's what the kids on TikTok are not doing, you
No,
know?
and they're like even altars. People don't know a ton about altars unless you know about altars.
Well, unless you're like white and Christian, you look into other religions or you look into like Spanish culture, Dia
Hmm.
de los Muertos, altars,
Exactly.
like altars are huge in religion, but I never would have associated altars with witch.
I have like a very small altar, but I have like pictures of my grandma, like pennies that I found along the way, certain crystals. There are certain crystals that can actually connect you to the spirit world. So things like angelite and selenite and what's another, like moldavite, that's a really good one because moldavite actually came from outer space. So they think that it's been blessed by aliens. What's another good
What'd you
one?
say in one episode? The gray ones, the tall grays. You said
Oh, the
something.
tall
Oh, I
grays.
love
Yes.
that.
I
Yeah,
love aliens. Love them. Yeah, the tall grays, there's the reptilians, there's
yeah. I
Pleiadians.
just loved the word the tall grays. I was like, ooh, that's
Yeah.
hot. I live for the idea of other creatures, of assimilation. I can buy what you're selling. I live for
Mhm.
that. But I don't know. I think the counter to that is, as a society, we have decided that we are humankind. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
this is sort of what is going on. And yes, there are like societal understandings being like gender norms, a gender binary, or even like ritualistic ones like a man and a woman should marry. And because of those norms, when a woman would act up, she was hysterical or she
Right.
was a witch, which caused a lot of harm and dehumanized women. And the response to that was them burning, in one scenario. The dehumanization of queer individuals, especially during the AIDS pandemic, ended with a massacre of
Mhm.
queer elders that could be alive today. You look at race wars where you are nothing but your race, you are below. Therefore, we have like dehumanized you to this, and you are other than us. A human can't comprehend their mind around somebody else, another human, quote unquote, and therefore they must be from another planet. That's why I love the idea of of the gray ones, of the green
Mhm.
ones, the tall ones, of like the creatures. Because if I were to sort of like associate a charged term, I would always want it to be on literally the alien, the unknown.
I know, and I could literally talk about this stuff for hours just because I believe what I believe, but I like hearing the other, like your perspective, like it's making me think too, like maybe I should be more careful about like how I phrase things. And
It's not even about phrasing things. Like, I think that I don't, like we said, it's about intentions. If you're
mhm,
saying stuff with the wrong intentions, then there should be repercussions. Like I said, it mentioned karma and consequence. I don't think that that should always mean judgment. I think that should also mean understanding and forgiveness.
mhm,
But, I'm not saying all of this to challenge. I'm literally saying this to sort of like critique and highlight because I spent so much of my life blindly following different ideals and religions and beliefs. And then I had to build an entire new belief system structure that worked for me.
mhm,
And it was so easy for me to fall into another belief system because it was like, oh, well, I'm comfortable here now. And, that's culture. That's how cults are formed. It like focuses on the weak and the vulnerable to like indoctrine because they want comfort and safety. And so even the stuff that I really truly believe in, I always try to challenge myself because I need to
mhm,
make sure that I'm not like blindly, aimlessly walking into this, that I would have a hard conversation about it and I would have, put up a fight or I'd put up, have that sort of backhand swing with it. So I'm going, you know
mhm.
what? This is where I'm at. This is what I think. And so, yeah, I love Afterlife because I love ghosts. I love aliens because I love the idea of a big universe, where like we're all trying to figure out the same game of life. And maybe we're doing it better than others, and maybe we're doing it worse than others. And who will be the first to get the final score? Like that's really intriguing to me. Like I'm not trying to just say all this to sort of like discredit or devalue you.
No, no, okay, that
I'm
is what I was
simply
gonna
trying
say.
to understand stuff I don't know. And when terms are thrown at me that I don't understand, I'm just trying to figure out how to wrap my head around it. Because
Mhm,
when I'm listening to your podcast, the few individuals you interviewed just seem to be on like such a similar wavelength with you. I love to be able to like sort of create a space, a liberated space of like discussion and exploration. And so I always love participating in things like this. I like to think and I like to be sort of challenged.
And I'm honestly still trying to figure it out too, because this is like a new, not like new, obviously I've been this way my whole life, but the fact that I'm finally like addressing it and coming out of the broom closet has been
Uh,
overwhelming, and trying to make sense of the things that have happened and the thoughts that I have and like the experiences. It's a lot to process.
I'm really excited for you.
Really? Why? I mean, thank you, but
I just, I think if you keep up with this will be very beneficial for you. And I don't mean that in necessarily like a successful podcast. I mean that in terms of like you will find so much of yourself in this exploration that you will have never been able to do in like a therapy setting. You know what I
I
mean?
really appreciate that. Yeah.
Like,
And the
and I'm
fact that,
really excited for you, and like I'm excited to see the journey you go on and like the vocabulary you use and how that vocabulary shifts and grows and maybe changes. And because we don't know,
Mhm.
like the common listener doesn't know. So what you're telling us is sort of what we're taking at face value.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just expect people, which may be a reach, but to have an open mind, and, maybe
But
you
I
don't
don't
believe everything I
I don't
say.
think that's a reach. I don't think that's a reach. I think you should know that like those who are going to listen to your podcast are those who are here to support you. We're in your reach. We're hooked. We're on board. It's 2 years later, and some people are still like, baby, here we go. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I know I'm late to the party, but that's why I'm like, I don't want you to beat yourself up about this. I don't want you like you calling it like, oh, I'm the crazy one or this weird stuff I do. Like, get over it. Get over
I
yourself.
know.
Like, you
And
got it,
like,
girl. This is what you're doing, and this is the intention. But I believe in you so much that I know it's gonna happen, and that oh my god, I'm like getting emotional. Like
so am
three
I. I'm like
episodes
trying not to
down,
cry.
like 10. I'm about to start crying off my makeup.
I,
Like 3 episodes down, 10 episodes down, we're not going to be like, who's this witch? We're going to be like, who's this bad bitch? Because she's
Mhm.
going to be like, oh, so I set an intention spell and this is what happened. Stop apologizing. You're not the crazy one. You're not the crazy one. We believe in you. Like, girl, get on the broomstick and literally ride. Fucking ride, fly, then drop it and grab the vacuum and hocus pocus that shit. Because, like, that's what we want to see. And no one is expecting you to literally fly. We're just expecting you to believe you can. Because
Mhm.
we will too. And you're going to make it happen. And maybe this is witchy. And maybe this is me sending you energy and vibes and all the good intention. And like
Totally.
maybe the moons are charged and like our worlds are aligning. And like I hope can feel through the screen everything I'm sending you. Because like
I do. I
this
do.
is genuine and this is vulnerable. And this is not me trying to like critique or discredit. You're setting these intentions and you're sending these spells and you want to like help your friends and like clean the ghosts and do the spirits, but are you taking care of yourself and are you letting other people take care of you? We're here. We've got you. We're supporting you. We're listening. We're talking. We're here, girl. You've got us. So like let us have it. Let us have
Okay.
it. Blow us away. Like we are waiting, and that is why I am so excited for you, because I know you can do it. I know you can set the intentions. I know you can manifest this. Soak in it like you soak in the moon.
Thank you so much.
It's okay, like let yourself cry, girl. Get it out. Like I 100% believe in you. Believe in this. We spend so much of our lives searching for closure. Some people can't even do it. They end up as spirit longing. There's a melancholy presence that comes with that. Why?
There is.
Why are
Yeah.
they here? Why are they longing? What is missing? So don't go through your life feeling like you've missed something. That's what the nature is here for. That's what the intentions and the spells and the crystals and the moons and like the greens are all for. It's here to like enjoy and relish and bask in it all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying all of that. Like, whew. I'm like, how do I end this now? Like, I just got a pep talk.
I mean, no, sorry. I know this, like, you know, it went somewhere, but hey, this is what it's for, you know?
Yeah, totally.
In your other little podcast with the girl with the fake name, the real name that sounds fake, you know, she said like, oh, they're sorry, this is just a supercharged space and like you know, things happen how they should. It's like, so let it happen.
Mhm.
Let this podcast happen. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have great days. You're going to have tough days.
Mhm.
Cry it out, scream it out, put up a fight, give it a laugh. We're here to watch you. No, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I love you so much. And I didn't want you to think that I was just here like to give you a hard time. Like, I'm just
I
here
didn't
to
feel that
have a
way.
good time, to keep and like learn and develop and grow. And I hope that I can give back the like sort of genuine kindness you gave to me about like you listening to my music and you taking the time to read my lyrics. Like, clearly that means a lot to me, and you know, I want to take the time to understand you and get to know you as well.
Absolutely. Well, I also believe in what you are doing. I think that your message and just like who you are as a person is so important for so many people.
Well, thank you.
I really do. So, what's next for you, Mr. He? tell everyone.
To wrap this up, to put, you know, a bow on it. The Bride of the Visualizer is now on YouTube. You can stream it. Please add it to every single Spotify playlist you can. That's how the algorithm works. So go and add Zombie Boy and Bride Of to literally as many playlists as possible. 6 Feet Deep is probably gonna come May, June. Until then, I'm working on sort of a Bride Of surprise that hopefully I can pull off. And I don't want to give too much away, but you know, I like to leave that little bit of mystery.
I hope it's you showing up on my doorstep in a wedding dress.
Right. Hey girl, I'm here.
We're gonna record in person now. Surprise.
Right?
That would be amazing. Okay, so tell everyone where they can follow you, and if there's any last words you want to say, go for it.
You can follow me at a Mr. He Slasher on Instagram. It's on Facebook, Mr. He on YouTube. You know, we are on all streaming services, all platforms. MrHe.slasher.com. You can go to my website. You can get my email list. You know, I am really trying to push and hustle this because, like we said, I really believe in what I'm doing. And I have this delusional belief that, you know, we can change the world. So let's
We
change
can.
it.
Let's
You know?
do it. Absolutely. And I will put all of your links in the show notes, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you again so much for doing this.
Girl,
I
literally
was so excited about this.
anytime.
Okay, perfect, because you will be back. We need to talk after 6 Feet Deep comes out.
6 Feet Deep, and it'll probably be like 10 episodes later. And I can't wait to see the growth and development of our modern day band.
But I don't scream when I see a ghost in front of me. Do you see the ghost floating? She haunts me underneath my sheets. Do you see the ghost floating? She'll haunt you underneath her shade. Do you see the ghost?
Thank you for listening to the Bewitching Hour podcast. Again, I'm your host, Kat, and you can follow me on Instagram at Kat Alexander with 2 R's. You can follow the Bewitching Hours Instagram at Bewitching Podcast. And please, don't forget to rate me 5 stars and leave a nice review. In perfect love and perfect trust, until next time.
She was just a wish. She was just a wish. And a memory is all that is left of her now. Lightning strikes, maybe once, maybe twice.